support and help to grow each year. The first thing to say to you all is remember we are in a working building. So you will have people walking through. There are couples getting married today in various parts, probably in our registrar rooms, because on Tuesdays they tend to be smaller weddings. If we were here on a Saturday or a Sunday, well, we probably wouldn't be here because there would be the most enormous wedding parties. Sometimes we have 8, 10, I think is the most we've done in a single day on a Saturday or a Sunday, weddings in this venue. This is obviously a beautiful building, will be the focal point of where we're looking at today, but to start with, we're just going to go out into the Town Hall Square, because the building you're in now replaced a building that was in the Town Hall Square. So we'll just start out there, because we'll see some pictures later of what used to be there before this was built. This building, built in the mid-30s, completed in 1937 by Lanchester and Lodge. But I do want to take us out into the lovely sunshine and look at our Windrush artwork. Different people, ages ranging from 20 up to in the 90s, who did 3D video shots all around them, and these two people are composites of those 30 individuals who are all Hackney Windrush descendant, you know, first, second or third generation Windrush population. So actually these are composite photo fits signifying our Windrush population. And this is the second of 2 Windrush sculptures that we did. Many of you will be familiar. If you go up, there's a breadfruit and a soursop and a custard apple sculptures at the foot of St Augustine's Tower. So if you come out of Hackney Central and go up that way a bit, if you haven't seen them before, you'll see there are pictures in your brochures, and do go as part of your trip today and go and have a look at Veronica Ryan's Windrush sculptures. Veronica won the Turner Prize for not exclusively for her work on those Windrush statues, but partly for that work. So we're delighted as a local authority, obviously, to have commissioned a Turner Prize winning artist. This square, therefore, as I said to you earlier, was the site of the former town hall that one replaced. So in a classic service continuity effort in the 1930s, town hall functions continued in a town hall on this site where the square now is, whilst that one was being built. And the one that was built here was erected in 1865. But it wasn't the first Hackney Town Hall. The first Hackney Town Hall is now a bar called the Hackney Tap, which you will see is just by the 3 Veronica Ryan sculptures. But that very, very quickly became far too small for the Victorians. So that was built in 1855, the little old one up there. So actually standing today, you have got the first and third of Hackney Town Halls. The second one was demolished to make room for this square. The reason why in 1855 we suddenly have a town hall popping up is because that was when the piece of legislation was passed by the Victorians that dissected the state in terms of local government from the parishes. So it used to be St John at Hackney, which is the big central church, was the parish, and the church was responsible for local administration. That changed, that law separated church and state, and it was deemed that local authorities would come into being. The Hackney local authority was much smaller. It wasn't until 1965, and we'll see that reflected in some of the things we're going to look at today, that 3 smaller local authority boroughs were put together to make what is now the modern day London Borough of Hackney. So Hackney, Stoke Newington and Shoreditch all had their own town halls, and those were all put together to become the single London Borough of Hackney by an Act of Parliament in 1965. And still standing today, many of you will be familiar with Shoreditch Town Hall, which is where the Clove Club restaurant is, and sometimes theatrical performances happen downstairs at Shoreditch Town Hall. And Stoke Newington Town Hall is where Stoke Newington Library is, and is part of that complex of buildings there. We decided to keep all the main functions in 1965 here at Hackney Central in this town hall. So let's go in and have a look. Shows what Art Deco is about. It's about your very smooth, clean lines and having as much light as you can. So not only these lovely light fittings, we did some restoration on them about 5-10 years ago, but those are the original design of the lights. Lots of good artificial light as well as lots of natural light coming into the light well there. And initially, you'll see later, we've covered them in, but the building's in a figure of 8 shape, with the 2 holes of the 8s were originally open to the elements outside the atria. And you'll see as part of the big restoration that we did, took us probably between about 2010 and about 2015, we spent about £15 million on this building to bring it back to its former glory. The wiring and the plumbing in particular were falling apart. As I said, the atrium, they didn't have any form, they were open to outside, they were closed spaces. You'll see now we use them as meeting spaces, and we put a roof over the top. We've put galleries in. They're all quite mobile, aren't they? So we'll nip up the top and you can look down from one of the walkways down into the spaces. The most expensive part of the design was the marble. It's Italian marble called Carrara. And during the restoration, actually, we went and deliberately sourced exactly the same type of marble. But you can see where there were old bits and where the new bits went in. Over time, that will become less and less difficult to see. If we just look over here, let's come around here. You'll see a strange hole in the wall with a little brass round circle with a flap in it. When the original building was built, they'd come up with something they thought was really great, and that's vacuum cleaning. And they had a big vacuum in the basement, and the cleaners would run a hose from the bottom of a cleaning machine, plug it in there, and all the dust and the rubbish that they sucked up would get sucked down into the basement via those things. One of the original machines is down in the basement that we'll see when we go in there. But you will see as you go around the building those little round plug-in points for the vacuum cleaners. It was the height of modern technology, of course, in the 1930s, and they were very pleased with themselves that they had built that into the design of the building. You'll see it says Mayors of the Borough of Hackney. Remember I said there were 3 smaller ones, Hackney, Stoke Newington and Shoreditch. So up until the change here in 65, you've got your mayors, I'm going to check here, actually it shows it comes best here. So actually this mayor here, Mr. Tallentire, is mayor of basically an area that's 3 times the size, because Stoke Newington and Shoreditch have joined together with Hackney. So up until 65, the mayors, and remember the mayors are the people who wear the lovely red robe, the chain of the borough, and they are the representative of the whole borough, not the leader of the council. So it's in the same way, we now call them speakers, it's in the same way that we have the Speaker of Houses of Parliament. The difference between the leaders of the council listed here and the mayors, who then become speakers, is the same as the difference between the Prime Minister, these are effectively the Prime Ministers of Hackney, and the speakers of the Houses of Parliament. Top of the crest, so can you see the little tower up there? That's St Augustine's Tower, which is the tower on the narrowway to that, you really do have to, after you've left here, go and see St Augustine's Tower and Veronica's statues and the Old Town Hall, because they're all next to each other in the centre of Hackney. The motto underneath is Justitia Turis Nostra. That's justice is our strength, or justice is our tower of Turis, because it refers back to the tower, the oldest building in the borough. The water represents the River Lee. You've got the cross on the right, which is the cross of the Knights Templar, is that right?
That's
St.
right.
John of Jerusalem, yes. Because the Knights Templar owned a lot of land, hence the fact that the main church is called St. John at Hackney.
And there's St. John of Jerusalem.
And then there's St. John of Jerusalem in
and South Hackney.
Lauriston.
Yeah.
So you've got the tower appearing again then as well. So that is the old Hackney before it joined with Stoke Newington and Shoreditch, and we'll see the elements of Stoke Newington and Shoreditch coming into the new coat of arms, the 1965 one, later on. More than enough room for all of us, if you count the speaker. Remember we saw the list of speakers. The speaker sits here with their own gavel for calling us all to order. When I was first elected a councillor in 2002, we didn't have these microphones. They were all put in as part of the restoration. And there, the newest, most recent thing in here, obviously, is the portrait of His Majesty the King. Because the old Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, was up there until actually not that long ago, because the official portraits about 2 months ago, that was still wrapped up, sitting in one of the administrative offices. So the AGM that we're having here on Wednesday the 15th will be the first official meeting here with the portrait of King Charles III on display in the Hackney Council Chamber. Just to keep us honest and remind us why we're here, we've got the charter that was signed by Elizabeth II that actually constitutes formally the borough, London Borough of Hackney, as constituted by the 1965 Act that brought together Hackney and Stoke Newington and Shoreditch. And then to remind us that we're here about fairness and equality, we've got the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations on the other side. So the law that set us up as a council and the Declaration of Human Rights that are sort of like international pledge are the two things that we have with us all the time, reminding us why we're here with our monarch looking down at us. I think this should say Councillor Kennedy. Yes, it does. Good. I'll sit there. My name's still. The reason why I'm never quite sure of that is a friend of mine sent me a picture on Saturday and said, "I've come to a wedding in Hackney. Guess whose seat I'm sitting in?" And he take a picture of my nameplate. He was sat there at the wedding on Saturday and couldn't quite believe he was sitting in my place. Quite rightly, as you'd expect, because we're at a time of great resource shortage, and a beautiful building like this, we knew when we were spending the money on it that actually it was going to have to pay for its keep, earn its money back, and so it does, which is why you can get married anywhere in this building. So the smaller weddings, so people getting married today, most of them will be getting married underneath this in the function rooms. When people want to have a big wedding, they'll get married in one of the two atria, there or there. Some people get married in the committee rooms that we'll pop our heads into later. Some people, if you have a huge wedding, get married in the assembly rooms, which we'll go and have a look at as well, because actually the assembly rooms are the biggest place. Put on their vestments. I'm afraid it gets used as a storage room now, so we'll just walk through it. You can see beautiful, beautiful wood panelling everywhere. Really nice. Of a mayor of Hackney that we've got on the wall is Mr. Horncastle there. And some of these are councillors, some of them are referred to as aldermen. It's only after 1965 that everyone is referred to as a councillor, because they, although technically speaking the church was separated from the state, they kept the name alderman for some of the posts that were elected. And we've got photos of every mayor and subsequently speaker on the walls round all the corridors. Herbert Morrison was Churchill's Home Secretary in the Government of Unity during the Second World War. He was also, does anybody know, he was the Herbert Morrison was the grandfather of
Mandelson.
Yes, Peter Mandelson. And if you look at the picture, I think, although it might be with hindsight, I think you can see Peter Mandelson in that photo. Those of you who know Peter Mandelson.
Great quote.
Now, you've got 50% of the space again. So we're only looking at 2/3 of the extent of the assembly rooms. So it runs the whole length of the building. Yeah? That's where you have your band. And your band would go up there and play to the people dancing.
And all
That is all the way from Pakistan, the onyx on the bar. I think it's only 2 pieces. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know. Yeah. Well, because it was, they got one huge block, didn't they? And they cut it down the middle and then opened it out because it matches. Yeah. See, if you imagine constant folding it back up again, it was a huge block that was separated from the end. Yeah. I think that was taken in 1951. A picture in that corner, side to the left of the tram, and that must have been taken at some point in the 30s, we think, while they were, because we think they were beginning to demolish it. So the people who come and shout at us during council meetings, to be the case when you look at very big roofs, that the roof wasn't quite as sturdy as we would have liked it to be. So it got held up by about 6 months for some unexpected strengthening of the roof. Before we did anything with it, there were no lifts, very little access to here, and you had, well, dead pigeons and old bits of furniture just lying down there. That's pretty much. Well, today, and you're able to make it in. That map is quite instructive on the wall there. It shows the different wards that the London Borough of Hackney is divided into. So you've got 57 councillors, but the borough itself is divided into 22 wards, and each ward will have either 3 or 2 councillors. So our directly elected Mayor, Caroline Woodley, this is her office. See, lovely desk, beautiful furniture, all, as you'll see, in the same style as the furniture in the council chamber, in the committee room that you saw earlier. Beautiful wood panelling again, amazing light fittings, and really interestingly on the wall there, the original designs by, I think, does it say Waring and Gillow? I think, were they the company?
It's hard to see, isn't it?
I think we'll probably keep Queenie up then, and we'll have the King in the chamber. And boroughs were put together. You've got the new coat of arms, so when I grow rich, say the bells of Shoreditch, and there are the bells of Shoreditch in the bottom hand. You've got the trees of Stoke Newington, and then you've got the St John of Jerusalem, so you've got Hackney, Stoke Newington and Shoreditch all together. I wonder if so for all the I have to confess to not quite being sure about the difference between that one and that one. I think that might be Deputy Speaker and this is Speaker. Yeah, Madam Speaker wears this one at full council. Actually, look, we've got full council coming up on the 15th. It's just been to the dry cleaners. So mace and the chains of office. These are quite valuable, so I'm absolutely sure that this cupboard is locked. Yeah. So as I keep coming in. Little tours, and they will spend quite a bit of time in the chamber where the kids will do a little bit of debating, and they'll have the basic ideas around politics and voting explained to them. But then also when they come down here, they will see about, they'll have the mayor explained and councillors and the fact that local elections happen every 4 years. And then there's some lovely stuff from our archives about things that happened in the past. That's a lovely picture of a peace camp in the 80s in the Town Hall Square. Ah, yes. The machine.
Oh, wow.
The vacuum machine.
It's brilliant.
The big black turbine was what was sucking all the dust out of the vacuum cleaners from the sweepers upstairs. A lot of the key.
Oh, wow.
Downstairs, a lot of the key.